What's going on, guys? Welcome to GTTV, where we recap and review reality television. Love is Blind Season 8 has finally released. It released this past Friday, which was Valentine's Day. So, the first episode opens up as usual with the singles in their quarters. They're being introduced to Nick and Vanessa. But Nick and Vanessa has one little new thing that they tell our singles is that there's more singles this season. Honestly, they just added two more people, one girl, one boy. So instead of it being 15-15, it's 16 and 16. So as Nick and Vanessa are talking to the singles, they ask that same question, why love is blind? So we meet a couple of the singles, but I'm only going to touch base on the people that we see repeatedly through the episodes, and that's Taylor, Daniel, and Molly. Taylor and Daniel give you a generic, answer. Oh, I'm looking for love. I'm ready for love. I want to find a husband, wife, and kids, and blah blah blah. Right? But then we meet Miss Molly Ringwald. Now I call her Molly Ringwald one because her name is Molly, and two she has red hair like Molly Ringwald. We get Molly, and Molly says, I'm ready for marriage. I've never been in a relationship, but I'm ready for marriage. Molly girl, I don't know how you could skip that major part um in growing as an adult. And to me, that's relationships. Then they cut to, of course, every single going into their pods and they're getting ready to meet one another. A little side comment here, right? You're going to hear me say sky comment a couple of times. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but before I never really paid attention, but for some reason, maybe because I watched these two episodes a couple of times, but I just noticed that when the singles meet each other, they're so excited, which I think that is warranted. But when they start to talk and they start to try to find what's the word, commonality, it is some of the most basic stuff that I feel like everybody would have in common. Like, oh my God, I love cheese. Oh my God, you love cheese? Oh my God, I love Star Wars. You love Star Wars? Like stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, slow down, talk. Talk, in the beginning, you talk about surface stuff. You don't go too deep in the beginning, but just talk. See if you have a feel of this person. See how their tones are. See if they're sarcastic. Like, let's go for that first, not like the stupid generic comment stuff, what I just mentioned, right? So now we meet Taylor and Daniel, right? Taylor is what we're going to call our short king. And when we first met him, that was something that he mentioned. And he said he's very secure in it. But I feel like if you were secure in it, you wouldn't mention it. But I think that's really the only time that he mentions it. He doesn't mention it in the other episodes that I've seen, well, which is the first and second one. But Daniel and Taylor are talking, and Taylor asks Daniel, like, what are you looking for as far as Love is Blind? And he says, look, and I'm looking for my wife. I'm looking to have children. This is what I want. And I think it's the wording that Daniel uses that Taylor is just eating everything up. I don't think Daniel is saying anything refreshing that she's probably never heard before, whether it's in real life or television. I just think it's the wording that he uses where she is just like all in, right? But Daniel lets us know the reason why he chose Love is Blind is because his sister is blind and she leads her life, in a way where she's not seeing anyone. So she's judging people on their character when she meets them. And I think that's very honorable, but I also find it weird for him to use her because at the end of the day, your sister has no choice in um moving in life. She cannot see. So she has no choice but to judge people based off of who they are inside. She can't see them, whereas you can. But then next we get to meet our first love triangle, and that is Miss Brittany, Devin, and Virginia. We first meet Brittany. I don't remember what her occupation is, but she's 35 years old. Oh, I do know some of her occupation. Some of her occupation, she's like a D1 basketball coach, but she's 35. Then we meet Devin, who is 28, and he has a similar job occupation, as well as he's a coach. So these two have a talk, and they find out that basketball is something that they have in common, right? They're both coaches, they both have the love for basketball. Devin proceeds to ask Brittany, excuse me, you guys, her name is Brittany, but you're going to hear me say Brittany because I feel like Brittany is just an extra syllable that we all don't need to say, right? So Devin asks Brittany, what are you looking for? Like, as far as Love is Blind, she's looking for a mate. He asks her, as far as like how many children you want, and she's like, oh, as many as my husband wants. Girl, please. Let's see how you feel after that first one, right? So then we get Devin and Virginia. Not a lot goes on with Devin and Virginia. The thing that they have in common, excuse me, is the high school they went to. Now, Virginia is 34 and again, Devin is 28. So they never was in high school together. She left high school and he entered high school. Um, just a little side comment. Again, I'm going to have several side comments, but side comment. I don't know how schools work in other states and cities, but here in New York City, when we're graduating from junior high school, we have to apply to high schools. So if someone lived in the Bronx, they can go to high school in Brooklyn. If you lived in Brooklyn, you can go to school in Staten Island, Queens, or Manhattan. Like it really doesn't matter what borough you go to. But I've always thought that in other cities and towns, the high school is zoned to where you live. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always felt that way. And I guess because it's based on what I've seen on television, that's how high schools work outside of, of New York, right? So, from the reason why I'm saying that is because even though Devin and Virginia are 6 years apart, they went to the same high school. So, wouldn't they be in the same area as far as where they live? So, you're telling me you maybe never heard of Virginia or you never heard of Devin? I just feel like that's a little bit weird. But again, please correct me as far as high school goes in different cities, different states. So, we get a brief little moment between Virginia and Joey. They meet, but honestly, I just think that was a segue for us to meet Joey, and then we're introduced to Joey and Monica. So we get Joey and Monica, and they are so excited to be in this experiment, especially Monica. So as they're talking, right, Monica tells Joey about her father, and there's something that she tells him. She says that her father's from Chile. Um, I'm not sure why she said that so quickly into their conversation. I have an inkling that she did that so she can seem different from possibly the other women that he speaks to. I said in the beginning that Minnesota is 80% white, and she may have a favor in white men versus maybe a Latin man or someone else. So for her to stand out from the white women that she's in competition with, I feel like that's why she told him that her father was Chilean, give her a little bit of, a difference between the other women. But they really don't talk about much. She just, talks about, her father being from Chile. Joey does mention that he has sisters. He's the only boy, and that when he was 15 years old, his older sister, who was a big influence in his life, passed away. Right. Um, so now we meet our second triangle, and that's Dave, Lauren, and Molly. We're first introduced with like a little montage of Dave talking to other women. Something about Dave in the beginning just like completely turns me off. It's the way he approaches things in a jokey way. Some people, it's just dust on the shoulder. They'll just, shake it off. And I think some women find it to be off-putting. So when he's meeting this women and they're like, "Oh, how you doing, Dave? I'm such and such." And then his next question is, "What's wrong with you?" What do you mean? What do you mean what's wrong with me? And side note, I think all of them have some issues where they're meeting, love is blind, blindly instead of just meeting somebody in real life. But I don't know, for a woman to be talking to a man and his tone is, "What's wrong with you, honey?" His name would have been scratched off my paper like, "Nope, this ain't it." So we first get him and Lauren together, and he asks this question. She brushes it off like, "Oh, ha 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 ha." He asks her age, and Lauren says she's 31. And another joke that to me just doesn't land well. He goes, "Oh, you're not attractive anymore." She's a little surprised about that, but again, she like kind of shakes it off. I don't know. Dave comes off to me as like this all American dude that just is the ultimate catch. And he uses these icebreakers that just don't land well. I don't know. It's just something about Dave that is just like a big fat no to me. But after their little conversation, then we get Dave and Molly. Um, Molly admits to him that she's never had a boyfriend before. He's a little bit shocked, but I don't think he he's a little bit shocked, he's a little bit intrigued, but it's not something that's not something that's like a deal breaker for him. They just continued to talk and find some interest between one another. How within the conversation though, Dave does tell Molly that his parents are divorced and his mother passed away 6 years ago, which shows somewhat of Dave's softer side because you can still, of course it's his mother, but you can still see that it really affects him as it did 6 years ago. I don't think that's ever gonna go away. It might be a little bit lighter, but for 6 years, you could just see the pain and sadness in his face, and a little bit of hope of softness when it comes to Dave, right? So now we jump on to the next day, right? And we meet our very first quad, and I think our only quad. And we meet Alex, Madison, Mason, and Meg. So we're first introduced to Alex. Alex is talking about when he was younger, he had like an afro, he was a nerd, he didn't really have many friends. I guess when one incident in high school, he met this girl. He told her he liked her, and her and her friends laughed in his face, which kind of like broke my heart because he seems like he was like the nerdy one that was always bullied. But there's something about Alex that I like. There's something about Alex that I truly, truly like. But Alex meets Madison. In the beginning, Madison seems very endearing to him, but then it quickly changes. She talks about her traveling. She traveled to France. She traveled to some Arabic country. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it wasn't India. I don't know if it was Pakistan. I don't remember what the country was, but she lived there. She taught English and she also learned Arabic while she was there. But the conversation turns very deep and very dark. Madison talks about her parents and how she came about, and then she really talks about like her mother. So pretty much her parents were drug addicts, they were in rehab. They had her as an oopsie baby. Her father's not involved. Her mother continued to be a drug addict. She doesn't have a very good relationship with her mother. That all like sums it up, right? And Alex is taking all this in, and he's very sympathetic to her, right? But then we go into meeting Madison and Mason. And Madison doesn't go too deep with him like she did Alex, but she does explain, she does talk about her siblings, right? She says that I think she had 3 siblings, and one of the brothers died, and his name was Brett, and he was named after somebody, I believe. I don't remember who the person was that he was named after besides the first name that is Brett. But they get along. They have like a generic first conversation, and then it jumps to Mason meeting Meg. Y'all, Meg. Meg. When I tell you that girl is on go and doesn't know how to stop, they start talking, and Madison is like a vampire of energy. There is no break in her talking. This woman literally goes from asking Mason about aliens, spray tans, pyramids, spirits and ghosts and religion. And you could tell because it's the first time they're meeting, like Mason is taking it in, and he kind of makes like a snide comment like, yeah, save all that energy for our next date. But I think he's like kind of on the fence with her. Like, she's interesting because there are some things that we do have in common, but I don't know if I can take her because she's just too much, right? So after they have that conversation, we get second dates with Molly and Dave. Now, again, a lot of these conversations are very stale. I'm not sure if the singles were giving Love is Blind some juicy stuff, because these first two episodes, a lot of these conversations are so surface based. They'll go a little deep, but majority of it is very surface based. And I have to tell you, as a person watching it, I don't care. Like the second date with Dave and Molly, right? They start off talking about religion, and then Molly goes in, I think about Molly's Catholic, and Molly goes into exorcisms, right? And she talks about like she watched like the priest showed them like real life exorcisms and things like that. But then it cuts to like Dave letting Molly know, like, you know what, you sound like my ex-girlfriend. Now, Molly doesn't know how to take that. Like, she doesn't know if it's like an insult or it's a compliment. He tells her that it is a compliment, and the reason why is because she doesn't sound like all the other women, all the other single women. All the other single women sound the same. I'm talking about like, I don't know. Dave is just some of the stuff that Dave says. I feel like he just doesn't think about it. Molly just goes, "Oh, okay, ha ha ha." But hello, he's like insulting the other women, including Lauren, by the way. Okay? Lauren is a part of those people. And I'm not sure why he made that comment. It's just I don't know. But they go into a conversation about dominance, right? Like I said, Dave is very all American. I think he's like all American conservative. I'm the man, I run this type of uh person. That's what I'm getting for him. So the conversation of dominance happens, right? Does is it like, what does Molly prefer? Does she prefer the man to take the lead or she take the lead? Molly goes, in the beginning of the relationship, I prefer the man to take the lead, but eventually I'll take the lead. And I'm here for all of that. I'm an alpha woman. I'm all for a man taking a lead. You could take the lead when we're outside, but baby, when we get into this house, I'm the leader. I just want to let you know that. Okay. So now we get Dave and Lauren. And Lauren mentions that Dave has the same name as her father. Listen, this is not the only two people that have this conversation, but I'm just going to say this. It is very weird when someone that someone's dating has the same name as someone in their family. I honestly don't care if it's the father, the brother, the cousin, the uncle, the grandfather. I just find it to be weird to be like, "Oh, okay, what's your name? Oh my God." Like, say, percent, my father's name is Dennis. What's your name? Oh, my name is Dennis. Ooh, your name is, mm-mm. To me, that's a non-negotiable. Like, we got to end this conversation. We could be friends, but anything beyond that, absolutely not. But she goes and they have, like, again, a same generic conversation. Dave does tell her that his sister knows that he's coming on the show, however she's not a fan, and you can see in Lauren's face that she's a little bit scared. She doesn't know if Dave and her choose each other, how would his sister feel about her, right? And I'm going to explain a little bit more because they have another conversation, and I think there's something about Dave that Lauren knows. So when she mentioned that, she got a little bit scared. Next, what we get Daniel and Taylor again. Not much happened in this date. The only thing honestly happened is that Taylor lost her voice. Again, very surface conversation, nothing really going on. But can I say this? I'm going to make another little side comment. We don't get too much of Brittany, Devin, and Virginia. I don't know if they're saving them for later on episodes, but they breeze through them very, very quickly. I would say like 30 seconds, right? You get Brittany and Devin, they're talking about cheese. They're talking about cheese in a macaroni and cheese competition. And then you get Virginia and Devin talking about dancing. And then that's the end of it. That's it. And then they skip to Joey and Monica. Again, Joey and Monica don't have too many deep conversations, but we do learn in this second date with Joey is that Joey's mother was very financially irresponsible. And because she was irresponsible, when he, I guess I would say in his late teens, early 20s, when he started to work in the real world, that he learned, financial literacy. He learned about stocks. He learned about savings. And it's to the point that he bought his first house when he was, I believe, 27 years old. And he was able to open up, I guess, like a retirement account for his mom. So that's as far as deepness goes with them. But Monica, she really didn't say too much as far as the conversation goes. So then we jump back to Dave and Lauren, and they talk about their non-negotiables. And their non-negotiables, excuse me, is their family getting along with their mate. I think Dave mentioning to Lauren, I think also gives her I don't know, another notch on her anxiety if Dave and her do choose one another, right? So as the conversation with Dave and Lauren goes on, Lauren mentions to Dave that she has a FTP tattoo. And he's like, "What's a FTP tattoo?" And she goes and says, "Oh, it means the politicians, something like that." And it screams that Lauren is a liberal. Now, Dave comes off to me as a conservative, and to be with someone who is as liberal as putting a tattoo of it on their body, I don't know. I just see a lot of red flags when it comes to them. Like, he probably comes from an ultra conservative family, and you got Lauren who is not that. So even if they choose, I can just see them having that's just a major issue between them two. But we get Dave and Molly meeting up again. Honestly, their conversation wasn't even worth discussing. So we get a final scene of Molly and Madison in the quarters. Molly is so excited to have found her number one in Dave. They do little cuts to Lauren, and Madison asks Molly, like, who do you think your number one is talking to? And she points to a young lady named Sarah. Now, we have yet to be introduced to Sarah, but we see Sarah, right? As they're talking, Lauren comes and she sits next to Madison and Molly. And Molly is just talking and she's just so excited about Dave. So Lauren asks, "Well, who's your number one?" And Molly, in a whispering kind of way, says, "Dave." I don't understand why she whispered Dave when she just previously said she doesn't care who else he's talking about. Talking to. She's very secure in what they have. But then she proceeds to whisper it again to Lauren because Lauren didn't hear it the first time. She goes, "Dave." When Lauren heard Dave, when I tell you like somebody punched in her stomach, she was just like, "Oh my God, I have competition." And it just put another notch of anxiety onto her. That's where the episode ends. So let's go on to episode 2. We didn't get much here. Again, very surface, very boring conversations that I think the audience just doesn't need, right? So we open again meeting with Daniel and Taylor. And here goes another couple. Taylor, in her raspy voice, tells Daniel, you and my father have the same name. When we talk about non-negotiables, that's one. That is a deal breaker. I'm not dating anybody that has the same name as anybody in my family. We're not doing that. And Daniel, he's like, "Oh, okay, really? Wow, okay." And then the conversation proceeds to go, but it goes a little deep, right? Taylor does tell Daniel that, "Listen, like, my father in September," and I think she's talking about September of 2023, that her father was diagnosed with a rare cancer, right? And Daniel's there to listen and be sympathetic to her, right? So then that conversation kind of just like fizzes out. And then we get introduced to two new people, and that is Sarah and Ben. So first we get introduced to Sarah, and Sarah tells us pretty much that she's open as far as her type goes. As long as he has a dad bod, she is perfectly fine, right? So then she meets Ben, again, a very surface conversation. They talk about food. She loves to cook in an air fryer, but don't make steak in an air fryer. It's not that good. Both of their dads make really good steak. That's all I really got for this conversation, right? Um well, no, correction. They, after that little tidbit of their conversation, it does go a little bit deeper into religion, right? And Ben is, to me, very similar to Dave, might be a little bit more close-minded than Dave. So Sarah divulges to him that her sister is gay, right? And she's not super religious. But if her husband is religious, she would go to church. However, the church would have to be very open minded and accepting to different people, gay people, black people, whatever, right? So, Ben goes and tells her, I'm not going to force religion on my mate, which Sarah accepts. But when Sarah told him that her sister was gay, she said, "Would you be comfortable around my sister?" And this is where I had to really pay attention to Ben, right? So Ben goes and he says, "Oh yeah, I don't have a problem being around that community." And that clearly, and it solidified what I kind of thought about Ben. Ben is really conservative. Clearly, Ben has not been around different types of groups, whether it's LGBT or POCs. You could tell his circle has always been white Anglo-Saxon. It's just clear as day. Again, I think he's a little bit more closed-minded than Dave. I think Dave is conservative, but again, not as closed-minded as Ben. And I think if these two do choose each other, it's gonna come out a little bit more the ignorance that Ben has. I just have a feeling when it comes to those two. But we get back to what's her name, Lauren, right? And it's like her confessional, and she's expressing how she felt when she found out that Molly's number one was Dave, and she's sad about it. So then it jumps to Lauren having a conversation with Dave, and she's somewhat kind of like confronts him on the other women that he's seeing. I think he had mentioned to her that he wasn't going to see anyone else after they date, but he indeed talked to Molly, right? I think Dave at this point is seeing the red flags in Lauren. Um, I'll talk a little bit about my opinions about some of the singles at the end, but I think Dave finds the red flags in her, and I don't think he's feeling it. There's something about Lauren that is somewhat of a nitpicker, and I think her nitpicking will turn into like major arguments, and I think Dave can see that, and I think Dave is going to start stepping back away from her. He lets her know, like, "Listen, I like you, I still want to get to know you," but he is getting to know other women. He doesn't mention Molly, but he does say that he is talking to another person um within the single women, right? So then we jump to Molly and Dave, and they're having a nice conversation. You could see the difference between what Dave and the conversations that Dave and Molly have versus Dave and Lauren. There's a ease that Molly brings to Dave that Lauren does not, right? So their conversation goes into cheating, and Dave tells Molly that he's cheated on his ex-girlfriend, right? And he was scared to let her know. However, because Molly, first of all, Molly has never been in a relationship. So Molly says she was the person that one of the persons cheated with. So she was the other woman. And she said that after, it all went down, she felt really bad. And she's like, "Why would you be that person to break up a relationship?" So she knew from that point on she would never do it again. And then also she wanted to reassure Dave that, "You know what, I don't judge. You know what I mean? What you happened in your past was in your past. This is now your present." And I think Dave really appreciated that about Molly. But we jump back to Joey and Monica. I'm going to be very honest. It is very hard for me to watch Joey and Monica. Joey and Monica, to me, are the people I would fast forward. If I was not watching this for a review and recap, I would fast forward them. There's something about these two that I just don't care for, right? So Monica starts to talk to Joey about her life. She first says, I'm in between jobs. Then she goes into this story about her grandmother and Alzheimer's, and just to end up saying like she wants someone to understand that she's jobless. And Joey baby, I don't know if you don't see this as a red flag, but I think Monica is looking for someone to take care of her. I have to be very honest. She said all that spiel in the story just to say that she don't have a job. I would tell you, watch out, Joey. That's all I have to say. So now we get a couple of more useless conversations, right? We get Madison and Alex talking about Halloween and Halloween costumes. We get Mason and Meg, and they're talking about a whole bunch of nothing. And then again, we get Devin and Virginia. They're really not talking about anything besides like clothes. However, I guess because of the men that Virginia chose in the past, they weren't very nice men. She says to Devin, it's very refreshing to talk to someone like you. Very sweet, very nice, right? But that's as far as it goes with their conversations. It goes to Devin and Virginia, right? And Devin and Virginia talk about their love of gospel. But then Virginia, not Virginia, excuse me, Brittany and Brittany and Devin go into a conversation about their love for gospel. But then Brittany talks about a story, when she was younger, how her mother only let them listen to gospel. However, her and her brother always wanted a Lil Wayne album, and how they put on a Christmas list Lil Wayne, but the mother refused to buy it because of the profanity um in the album, which I can understand because, honey, I remember when I was 14, I bought Little Kim's debut album, and my father was not happy. I just want to let y'all know about that. It was just not happy. And if you ever heard Little Kim's first album, it is not children appropriate. Um, just a little side note when it comes to this triangle of love. Um, I don't see much going on with these three. Um, I don't see. Maybe I'll see something down the line, but for now, there's nothing interesting about them at all. So we get back to Joey and Monica. Again, they talk about a bunch of nothing, but at the end, Joey proposes to Monica. And can I tell y'all, that was one of the most underwhelming proposals I have ever seen. It was just like, that's how you ask her? All right, I guess. So now we get to something that I found interesting, and it is a conversation between Alex and Madison, right? So Alex and Madison are having a conversation. Alex talks about being cheated on, and Madison agrees and says that she was cheated on as well. But it also goes into Alex asking Madison, "How are you with conflict? Like, how are you with conflict?" And Madison admits to him that she's a runner. She's a person that will run from the conversation, and that is such. Something, like I said, there's something mature about Alex that I really, really enjoy. Alex doesn't jump the gun. You don't see too much of a major reaction to him. He's very like, what's the word I'm looking for when it comes to Alex? He just really just sits there, he thinks, he's calm, and he really knows how to express himself, right? Without getting all hype. So you could clearly see this is a problem for Alex, right? And he's very honest with her, he's very respectful. He goes like, um that's a problem for him, and he's gonna have to sit and he has to really think if Madison is his person, and this kind of scares Madison. So what does Madison do? Madison goes into a whole spiel about yet again another major like tragic story in her life. Her stepfather's a drug addict, he almost overdosed, and Alex is, again, he's understanding, he's sympathetic, but it still does not turn him away from saying, I still have to think about this. And you could clearly see that Madison is scared. And I hope that Alex doesn't choose her. And I'll give you a reason towards the end, but I really do hope that he doesn't choose her, right? So then it jumps to Madison and Mason meeting up. Um, their conversation wasn't good. It was boring. I noticed about Mason that he likes to turn the conversation sexual, and that's a major turnoff for me. So I really wasn't interested into the conversation. However, we do get Madison and Meg again, right? Meg expresses to Madison, I mean, excuse me, Meg expresses to Mason, not Madison, Mason, that she's looking for a family, but again, it really doesn't go deep within the conversation. And then we get the final scene of Joey and Monica preparing to meet up. Monica is super nervous. I think the only reason why Monica is nervous is because she's tall. Monica has to be at least 5'10", 5'11". You know what I mean? I peeped her with the kitten heels. So I think that's her major thing. Whereas for Joey, I think he's just nervous. Like, would she think I'm attractive and overall? But the episode ends with the doors opening, and then, we got to move on to episode 3, or we'll see their reactions in episode 3. But let me just talk about the couples a little bit, right? I specifically made sure not to talk about it as I was recapping. So I'm just gonna go by each couple, right? Or a couple, the quads, and the triangles, if you want to call it that. So Daniel and Taylor, I don't see red flags yet with Daniel and Taylor. I think they're an okay couple. I would love to see if they do choose one another, if there's many conflicts, but I don't know. I don't think there will be. I just think these are two mature people that just really like each other. So I can see them saying yes at the altar if they do choose to be with one another. Brittany, Devin, and Virginia. I can be very honest here. I don't see any spark in any of them. When it comes to Devin and Brittany, I see a lot of the common things that they have in common, or things they have in common. But I don't know. I just see a friendship with them. I don't see anything romantic. Am I wrong? Am I right? I don't see much that goes on with Devin and Virginia either. I think Devin will choose Virginia just because he probably can see a potential of love with her versus with him and Brittany. I think he's getting more of a friendship with her. Even without seeing her, there's something that's not romantic between these two. So I think he's going to choose Virginia. I don't know if there's going to be much drama in the next 4 episodes. I hope and pray it is. But I just don't see him and Brittany getting together. I'll see him and Virginia get together, but I don't see them saying yes at the altar. I think they're going to be so different, and they're just going to say no, and that's it. When it comes to Dave and Lauren, I pray that Dave chooses Molly, because I see the red flags in Lauren for him like no tomorrow, and vice versa. Lauren, go find yourself a liberal. Please do not even think about Dave, because Dave is not the one for you. And again, there's something about Lauren that nitpicks that Dave is not here for. You could just see it. You could just see that he's just like, oh, she's going to be a problem. Every little thing, there's going to be somewhat of an argument. It don't have to be like an aggressive, loud argument, but it's going to be an argument. And I don't think that's what Dave is looking for. I think Dave is looking for easygoing and no judgment. And I think that's what Molly gives him. I don't know if Molly is a conservative. Molly does not come off as a conservative, but I think she is a lot more palatable for his family. So I have a feeling that Dave is gonna go with Molly and not necessarily Lauren, right? So then we get the quad, right? All I have to say is, Alex, run, 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 run. Madison is not it for you. Madison does not need Love is Blind. Madison needs a therapist. There's so much trauma in this woman's life. That's all she talks about. Run, Alex. You don't need that. Again, there's something about Alex that I enjoy. He's so mature and so easygoing, and just I really like him, and I just feel like Madison is not the person for him. I think Madison will bring unnecessary drama to his life, to something that he doesn't want. Alex, run. As far as Madison and Mason, I don't care. Like, I don't care, honestly. And Mason and Meg, I don't care either. I don't care if he chooses either one of them, to be honest with you. There's nothing interesting. I just think Alice needs to get out the quad. Okay? That's all I can see. Joey and Monica. Let's get into Joey and Monica. Joey and Monica, oh my God. It's not necessarily Joey. I don't mind Joey. It's something about Monica. I think Monica is so set on finding a husband that she just chose Joey. She just chose Joey. This, to me, from the scenes that we've seen, they don't go too deep. So I don't understand how they're already engaged. It's odd to me. Again, I think Monica is just looking for a husband and doesn't care who it is. And I think this relationship is going to crash and burn. Joey is going to see that she is not on his level financially and that she may be a burden financially. And I think they're going to say no at the altar if they don't break up before it. I'm going to be very honest. I think Monica does not need Love is Blind. Monica needs an accountant. Monica needs to get another job, and Monica needs to get financially set before she even thinks about getting with a man. Sorry, that's how I feel about it. Um and you know what they remind me of? They remind me of that couple from last season, Ramses, and oh my God, was her name Monica too? I gotta look it up, but they remind me of them where they were just so excited in the pod, and then as they were in the real world, especially Ramsey could see that she was not for him. And I feel like that's going to happen here with these two. Now we have Sarah and Ben, and this is another one. Sarah Run. Sarah Run, he ain't it for you, girl. There's something very off putting about him. I think Ben is very ignorant and very closed minded. And I think because he wants someone that he's just going to accept what your life is. And I don't think you guys will be it. Sarah Run, girl. Please. You don't need somebody like that. But that is the end of this review and recap. What did you guys think of the first two episodes and so far of the season? Let me know down below, but no spoilers. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Toodaloo.